Hello everybody and welcome to Channel Few Reviews, back with another Japanese deep dive into some funky 70s exploitation parody of the 007 series and a lot of the the sex comedies that were going on during the 70s time. This is very much in the vein of black exploitation, Hong Kong's category 3, the kind of horror hammer kind of series for kind of British kind of viewers. This is very much in tune of all that was going on in terms of Roma porno movies as well, softcore porno movies. And we have Hanzo The Razor. This is the trilogy pack from EUREKA, part of their DVD set. This is one of their very early releases. I think before they did went on to Blu-ray, they did a lot of kind of DVD releases prior, which I do have a couple of the kind of Japanese titles. They even did Battle Royale on DVD before they did Blu-ray. So this is definitely one of the early releases. This is pretty much out of print now. This is pretty reasonably accessible. If you go on CX or on eBay, you can find it for a reasonable price. I managed to get this for a steal. This is the second imprint they did, which is the more of a bulkier version, which has all three films in individual packaging with the booklet essay included in all three of the films, talking about the behind the scenes, what was going on behind the films and the directors and what was happening during the time in terms of 70s Japan cinema. So this is a pretty nice little edition, nice hardback version as well. Just kind of show you what you would be expecting with this version. There is two versions as mentioned. There's one with all three individually together. There is one that's all together, all one pack. Which I didn't get that one. I think that's the initial release, but this is a reissue release according to the booklet on this edition. So here's the artwork for three films. And just to kind of give you an example, you get the disc and you get the booklet there as well, which is a really good insight, definitely worth its weight in gold, being the fact there are zero extras on these editions. You just get the DVD quality with the subtitles. I'm surprised they haven't re-released this on Blu-ray as of yet, but maybe it's down to the kind of hard access on the original elements, being the fact they do mention in the booklets that some of the framing and some of the audio missing is down to damage of the original negatives, so maybe it's a bit harder to do on Blu-ray. Maybe it won't be as faithful on Blu-ray to do. There's multiple different reasons, plus the licensing as well, so could be multiple reasons there. But being the fact that I'm in a bit of a Japanese kind of boom at the moment, I definitely wanted to explore other avenues in terms of Japanese cinema, and I've already dipped my toe in the water with some exploitation already with the main star of this film and his brother with the Lone Wolf and Cub series, which I absolutely loved, and I thought that was just like peak, not just within Japanese cinema, but just in cinema in general. It just was a highlight and definitely something I needed during the time when I did my initial dive into that series of films, which I have done a video for. There will be a link below for that. Shintarô Katsu is our main leading star in this series, which he also is known for the infamous Zatoichi series, which is a series I have not dived into as of yet. I have yet to see a single one of these films, which will definitely be really high priority on my list. I know he is infamous for making that series what it is and doing almost 20 plus films, if I'm not mistaken, and him doing some other various avenues and other kind of manga adaptations and diving into some more exploitation films and other movies, not just within Japanese cinema, but also within some Hong Kong movies as well. And during making those films, he decided to do Hanzo The Razor based on a manga series from the same writer and creator as the Lone Wolf and Cub series, which also would do another series called The Lady Snowblood, which he does a manga, also as another movie adaptation. So definitely a very hot manga series and creator doing film adaptations for, and definitely working for the 70s style. Now, being the fact I haven't seen the initial infamous series that this actor is known for, I've only seen a couple of various roles he's appeared in within other series, and this one is the proper trilogy and franchise that I've got into, with that name involved. And I know he is a mega superstar during the kind of late 70s kind of Japanese cinema, alongside with quite a few of the same directors and people involved in this series, also involved in these Zatoichi series as well. So, and of course his brother taking some liberties and basically doing his own path and seeking his own success with the Lone Wolf and Cub series, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm not going to go too deep into all three. There's no real deep kind of message or philosophy in these films. These are full-on exploitation, parody, sex comedies, whatever you want to say, darker movies, very much in the vein of Category 3 in terms of Hong Kong, but very much in the same way of kind of the Hammer horror series, for British kind of horror movies, and very much parodying the kind of the 007 edge. Something similar would also come about with his brother, which he would have done the Bounty Hunter trilogy, which also is a combination of exploitation, riffing on Bond, also doing spaghetti western with some of the gadgets and some of the weaponry work. So that's also another one that I should put on the shelf to kind of demonstrate what was another avenue of success within Japanese cinema during that time. Now, before I get into the actual trilogy itself, I want to dive a little bit into some of the mindset and what was going on during 70s Japanese cinema, something that I've been learning and understanding very much in the same way of kind of Hong Kong cinema. And I'm doing the same thing with this series and many of the films like it, with the Kenji Fukusaka series alongside this one, within what is the mindset, what was going on. And one of the cool things about this edition is that, as mentioned, you do get a really unique insight into the films, but also what was going on during the time. And let's put this over here. You do get a booklet on each one, which is absolutely fantastic. Always audience attention. Basically 1960s going into the 70s, televisions were a lot more easier access. The common folk people could actually afford a television set and were saving money by just not going to the cinema. As mentioned within previous reviews, the cinema was the kind of the big double bill, triple bill feature, and you had some of the big players, some of the big studios, basically having rising stars and heavily relying on getting return of profits for making these films back to back to back, making an extraordinary amount of films within the same amount of year with the same actors or same sets or same directors or writers, and they would really demand that kind of audience attention, the box office figures. And with televisions coming in and cinema prices being a bit more expensive, and it's a case of what is capturing the audience's imagination, what can we do to make ourselves a little different that you can't get on television, because some films will rerun on television, or you just get television programs which people just watch instead over the main features. So a lot of studios, as talked about in the booklet, would go bankrupt or couldn't keep up with the demand, or just couldn't get the returns back on the investments they put. So there lies some new opportunities, and this is something that's been explored within one avenue within Kenji Fukusaka's Battle Without Honor and Humanity trilogy. Well, series of movies, actually, not just a trilogy, but a series of films within a new wave of Yakuza-based films. That is one direction within 1970s, which went one way, violent, crime-based films. Another avenue was the exploitation pink genre, or essentially Roman porno, movie softcore porno films, essentially. And you have stars and directors and writers that would be known for more, classier, more traditional types of Japanese films within the Zacharichi series, as mentioned, doing something like this, like an exploitation movie with Hanzo The Razor, which is just completely out there and bonkers. So something that you wouldn't usually see on TV because of censorship, and something that the studios were fighting also in the censorships to basically get these hard R18 rated films in the cinemas, saucier films, more like, more raunchier films, things that you can't have easy access to at home during that time. Something that would become an even major problem within modern day cinema now, within 2025, where you have streaming, you have Blu-rays, physical media, you have so much access, so much overwhelming access. 70s Japan answer to that was one avenue doing the Yakuza crime-based films based on true stories and hard-hitting movies, and the other was the more raunchier exploitation in the vein of kind of John Shaft and 007 and the blaxploitation genre, and doing adaptations on material that already existed within the manga adaptations within Lone Wolf and Cub, and within Hanzo The Razor already existed within form of kind of anime. Would show a flood of these types of films coming out. Whether the quality of them is good or not is up to your own individual taste, and they've been the fact that they're pumping out some of these films in various qualities in terms of high budget, low budget, just kind of pumping them in the cinemas. Is entirely up to you what you get out of them or not. And something that is 88 Films is definitely taking advantage of within their new recent license, releasing a lot of these types of questionable, raunchier kind of films, which I don't know if they're any good. So keeping that in mind, getting to the actual film itself, Hanzo the Razor, the first entry, the Sword of Justice, released in 1972. One of the controversial, one of the talking points of this film, which is definitely going to divide a lot of people in terms of how they view this film. There's people that actually haven't watched this who will automatically view this as a disgusting kind of pervert film, which it probably is. And, you know, it's accurate to some extent, but this is also a parody film. This isn't meant to be taking itself seriously. The film itself isn't taking itself that seriously. The film's story and the characters playing it straight and playing it seriously, but the scenes themselves, the ludicrous nature of them, and the almost like a wink in your face, is so on the nose and so obvious that you can't take it for something as, you know, as disgusting or pervy kind of thing, because it is just having a bit of fun. It's very much in the vein of a category 3, in the same of Sex and Zen and basically the Exotic Ghost Story trilogy. It's basically in the same vein of those types of films, but also another cloth of something like Lone Wolf and Cub, but just a bit more raunchier than you usually would have, and a bit more contained within its kind of story, within its budget, and doesn't go too far out compared to what that series does. Hanzo, also known as the Razor, which is basically a nickname he has, this little village. He's a hard-ass police detective investigator, someone who believes in justice, who wants to get the information, doesn't care about authority, really against, very anti kind of, you know, government. Everyone is basically up to something. The corrupt officials, basically he is the folk town hero people. He is someone who is wanting justice and will get it by any means necessary, and going against his own superior and officials and shoguns, and will definitely butt heads with a lot of people. But his skill set and his determination and his arrogance, but also in the same time very much a hypocrite in terms of his methods. But I suppose to him it's the ends that justify the means. Hanzo has developed a very unique style of extracting information for his inquiries. This is more towards, you know, countesses and women basically waiting to spill their beans for information that he needs, and he would go about raping these women, which turns into pleasure for them, to the point where basically these women basically are saying, please don't stop. Twice in these films, within the first and the second film, I have taken you to hell, but I will take you to heaven if you cooperate, if you tell me what I need to know. And basically how he does this essentially is taking his monstrous dong. He has a table which has a really obnoxious kind of shape, which is just hilarious, and he beats it with a mallet, you know, beats the kind of the meat, essentially getting it tough, and basically will test his strength and thrust it against rice. And he would do this as a kind of a routine kind of, you know, day by day kind of ritual of him to basically make his dong and his strength, basically that no woman can resist his charms, no woman can resist his sense of torture. They would start off kind of hating it and screaming in agony, and basically to the point of they're saying, please don't stop. And he would stop to get information, extract information. This will also end in a mini kind of Yakuza kind of sequence where he would basically, after the act has happened, the woman is satisfied and happy and willing to cooperate, of course, and he would have basically a bathing bath with them, and he takes pleasure in that action. And I think that's just really out there and really kind of silly and stupid, and just you know, you can take it one way or the other. The film itself, like I said, those sequences and those scenes are definitely a parody in the same vein as Austin Powers, I would say. And Hanzo the Razor is known for that tactic, and basically what he would do is have two subordinates which basically managed to get them out of prison sentences. Yes, they have tattoos on their arms, basically saying one was a thief, one was doing some kind of criminal activities, and basically they are essentially slaves to him. They are basically his kind of students, essentially, and his kind of seek of justice. And these two individuals will assist him alongside this journey and finding information and basically luring enemies to him, and basically doing some of the kind of more manual labor, hard work, while he conducts his investigation into the various kind of corrupt officials or schemes that are going on within his kind of town, essentially. The house itself he has is very much a you know, gadget-based death trap itself, you know, various kind of, you know, booby traps left, right and center, and spears and kind of, you know, knives and samurai swords ready to go, wherever it's in various parts of the rooms, hidden kind of, you know, upstairs component where we can hide you know, basically prisoners or people that are in harm's way. He has a very kind of customized kind of house which really benefit to him, which I'm not surprised because of the fact of how many people he pisses off within all three of these films, and he is not a fan between anyone apart from maybe some of the local town people. I'm not surprised when people turn up to his house, they do not get out, because he can't take on 10 people at a time, but with some assistance, with some booby traps and some devices on his way, some gadgetry, he definitely can help himself out for sure, which I think is a really cool aspect of the film, and just, again, really silly and really fun. All three films are known for that kind of gimmick and that kind of exploitation within the subject matter of him kind of extracting information, some of the more gadgetry kind of booby traps, some of the sword play. It's pretty fun, it's pretty over the top. Some of it's great, some of it's a bit wonky, but the fact you get massive sprays of blood in terms of paint, something that, you know, the Lone Wolf and Cub series also did, and many other Japanese films also, kind of just going full on, you know, using color and just kind of, you know, having stylized kind of editing, having this really kind of 70s funky music, very much in the vein of kind of John Shaft, which I think is really fun as well. Makes this character really kind of badass and really cool, but also I don't know if you're supposed to like him or not. He's just someone who is getting stuff done, and his methods are extremely questionable. His attitude towards women and his enemies are also questionable, and his results are usually pretty successful by the end. Especially in the first film, there are little mini stories in between the main plot, which he just assists with and adds more layers to his character and his view of justice, and helping the local townspeople, and just trying to, you know, understand that no one's above the law, essentially. You know, the opening of the film, in terms of Hanzo the Razor, the Sword of Justice, he refuses to do the oath. He does it every single year. He's been within this police investigator for about 3 years or so now. And basically everyone is corrupted. Everyone is making backwards deals in terms of bribery, prostitution, murder, and he will not stand for any of it. And he will not take the oath, and he will pursue his journey, whatever means necessary, essentially. And surprisingly, he manages to get away with his behavior, you know, entering locations and temples without permission, assaulting women in the most vile way to get information, but also they're not complaining by the end because, you know, they're satisfied, which I think is really funny. You know, killing a lot of people. It's just very much a cultural thing at the time, in terms of, you know, what's acceptable, but also, you know, he's also getting his supervisor into hot water all the time. He's known as the Snake. You know, again, someone is taking bribes and backwards deals, and someone wants the easy access, doesn't really want to do the work. And, you know, that's always kind of a fun kind of like back and forth kind of comedy duo, the odd couple. You know, the more hard-ass serious character who basically wants to get shit done, and the other one is basically the suck-up, someone who's taking easy bribes, someone who doesn't really want to do anything. And I think that relationship back and forth is quite amusing and quite funny between all three films, and they never see eye to eye, and they always argue with each other a little bit. And, you know, it's just kind of amusing to see on screen. At the heart of these films, essentially, these are streamlined, kind of very simple samurai films. You know, they have, each one has an individual kind of theme and an idea in terms of, you know, anti-authority. There are, you know, a lot of criminals that are higher level within the kind of the Shogun era, the Shogun kind of members, or, you know, government officials, backwards deals, prostitution, as mentioned, drugs are involved, people get murdered, and there's always an investigation aspect between all three of these films, leading to kind of worse people, and he's always butting heads and basically not accepting certain traditions alongside it, which I think all three films have very unique stories as the film goes along. In the first film, The Sword of Justice is uncovering a series of kind of bribery and corruption, leading all the way to the castle, in terms of kind of police officers being bribed or being threatened. If you don't look the other way, or if you don't do what we tell you, hey, winter is coming soon, December, it's going to get pretty cold. Do you want to be out of a job, essentially? So basically having full control over the kind of the policing units and the other officers, Hanzo having none of it, and uncovers a basic conspiracy and unravels it all, and ruffles some feathers alongside it. As mentioned, having little mini stories in between in terms of encounters and doing his kind of extraction of information, trying to track down this very nasty kind of thief, someone who has evaded justice to the point of someone faking to be him, and basically saying, hey, look, this person's been sent to the island and no longer in the picture. Someone who has a lot of connection, a big higher up and big favor within the higher members of the kind of the castle, which basically means the above the authority, above government, essentially, who has a lot of power, a lot of influence, and this person is really protected, and Hanzo wants him and wants to get him, essentially, which I think is great. And you get to see the kind of the journey and the investigation he goes alongside to uncover where he is, his location. Definitely a very short and sweet film. It definitely doesn't take up too much of your time. It's very breezy. It doesn't really have too much else to really say in terms of satire or commentary. It's just having a bit of fun, a bit of anti-authority in terms of, this badass character. I definitely recognise a lot of the kind of the traits and the kind of the cliches. The first film itself is establishing its side characters, and its main character as well is kind of questionable kind of tactics, even having a scene where he's kind of testing torture tactics on himself, not just within the more traditional stuff, but also within like blocks of kind of cement on his legs, kind of, giving himself massive pain, and, to the point where he's saying, I need to understand what the threshold is. He basically wants to understand what torture techniques are best suited for the individual person he's going to be inquiring information from, and he wants to understand what pain is, and he basically is training himself with harsh discipline to be an expert within, not just within samurai-based kind of tactics, within fighting, within these kind of like pretty cool boxing gloves with spikes on them. Parody film, definitely have me laughing a few times, really over the top and silly. But just a bit of a fun film, good performances, relatively enjoyable story, nothing too, out there in terms of, quality-wise. It's just take it or leave it kind of storyline, but you're there for the more raunchier side. You're definitely going to get enjoyment for sure. And mixed with its unique style of editing and funky kind of 70s track, definitely makes it a more standout Japanese title compared to some others.